right? Ordinances. Traffic. Okay? Responsibilities, right? Compliance. Who makes the laws? Legislators. Based off of what? Representation of the people. And what the people are requesting or seeking. Okay? And what are the purpose of the laws? What's the purpose of the laws? Is it to enslave? Is it to maintain what? Okay, maintain some order. Maintain some sort of some societal order. Try to imagine a world where there were no laws, where there were no structure, no expectations, okay, and then no one to enforce if there were any laws, okay? It would be chaos, folks. People would be killing people. People would be stealing from people. The mighty would rule over the weak. It would be whoever can get away with the most, they're going to be in charge for the day until somebody else finds a way to take them out. Okay? It would not be good. Society would fall apart. Would completely come apart. Okay? We need this, folks. We need laws. And we need compliance with the laws. We help generate voluntary compliance. All right? You don't have to raise your hands. Have you ever been driving down the road, maybe going a little faster than you thought you should, and you see a marked police car? What normally happens? Usually the nose of the car dips a little bit, right, as the person's hitting the brakes, and it's amazing. It's like the police officer is completely transparent. He's like, you can't be seen, and their eyes are just like, you're driving by, right? Okay? So the look of guilt. Okay? What just happened right there? Okay? Did we help generate that voluntary compliance?
Yes, sir.
But did they voluntarily comply?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. We help generate that by our mere presence alone. Okay. Sometimes it takes more than just our mere presence. Sometimes to generate voluntary compliance, we may actually have to maybe use a little bit more force, but we're ultimately going for that compliance. All right. So here's how we generate voluntary compliance. Our professional presence, that's that just being seen, okay? The verbal commands, the soft hand techniques, chemical sprays, taser, hard hand control, impact weapons, roadblocks, even up to deadly force. Sometimes, right? Where do you think we spend most of our careers? Absolutely, okay? Right there, that alone is 60% of the power that we possess. Okay, presence. Then we got our verbal commands, 97% effective. Most of the time, that's where we stay, right there. We got our just being seen, our presence, and then we use our words, use our the voice, the control with our words and our voice, and that's where you live most of your career, right there. Okay, there will be other times where you're gonna have to jump into these the chemical sprays and taser and hard control. Okay. But basically, between the chemical sprays and the deadly force, you're there about 3% of the time. Now, if you notice, we left soft hand techniques in there because we do have to handcuff people, right? We still do Terry frisks, where we pat for weapons, those kinds of things. That's a part of compliance and those kinds of things, controlling the situation, the scene. That's not use of force, all right? That's just normal part of doing business. That falls right into with. By the verbal commands, okay? So to control a situation, to control a person, first and foremost, you have to be in control of yourself. Control you first, all right? Because let me give you a clue, folks. If you can't control yourself, you will not be able to control anyone else, all right? As a matter of fact, you will escalate situations. I know of officers I've worked with, troopers I've worked with, that when I heard they were coming, I thought, oh no. Okay? Because I knew that as soon as they arrived, things were going to escalate just based upon their personality. Okay? The fact that they did not really control themselves, they would insult folks. They were just abrasive. They were all about do as I say now, and I knew that bad things were going to be coming. Okay? So, first to control yourself, you got to know what your hot buttons are. We all have them. The little things that bother us, that set us off, that just irk us, right? Little things, little hot buttons. Okay? I went through, before ever coming up here to become a state trooper, I went through an academy down in the lower 48 down there. And my first day of class, the sergeant got up in front of the classroom and he talked about hot buttons, which I thought was very interesting. Never heard of the subject before. But he said, you know, every single one of you have a hot button. I want you to stop just for a minute and think about what it is. What's the thing that somebody can do that bothers you? What's a certain personality trait, or what's just something that really bothers you? Man, it was like light just kicked on my head. Immediately I knew. Right now, and the first thing, and we can really break this down. A lot of us could probably think of several things. But in this case, immediately it was, bam, I cannot stand. Then, never, and to this day, I cannot stand the abuse of women and children in any form. Cannot stand it. It pisses me off, okay? I won't tolerate it. And then he went on to say, you need to know what your hot buttons are, because you need to know that's what's going to set you off. You may need to try and avoid those kinds of things. So right then and there, I made the decision in my mind, I will never work any kind of domestic violence cases or sex crimes cases, child abuse cases, online enticement cases, nothing like that, okay? Because I knew that I would end up flying off the handle and throttling one of those cowards, okay? Period, because they make my blood boil. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit passionate about it even still, all right? Interesting fact, folks. I have spent the majority of my career in investigations dealing with domestic violence cases, sexual assaults, sexual abuse to minors, child pornography, child abuse investigations, shaken baby stuff, okay? The unit that I worked in prior to coming here to the academy, being stationed here, was the Child Abuse Investigations Unit and Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. That's all I did. Okay? Turns out that because it was one of my hot buttons, and because I was able to control myself, I became very good at catching those guys. Because I was passionate about it. Those passions can be turned and focused for good. I worked those cases tirelessly, and I was not going to do something to intentionally or mistakenly screw up those cases. All right? So just because it's a hot button for you doesn't mean you have to avoid it. Okay? It can work out for your benefit, but you have to be able to control it. You need to focus it for good. All right? You need to be able to remain cool under fire. When people are screaming in your face, when things are out of control, when the pressure's on, be able to remain calm, cool, and collected. Keep your mind about you. Keep whatever's the big deal. Not go down all these little unimportant roads, or often these little tangents, or interject any of your own personal opinions or biases. All right? You must remain neutral and nice and calm and cool. And then, lastly, we respond. We never react. There's a difference. Okay? A reaction is almost involuntary, and you'll always learn to regret it. We respond to those things. Somebody's yelling at us. Somebody's threatening us. We respond. We don't just react to it. This would be a reaction, folks.
For 8 miles on the South Carolina highway, a trooper pursues a driver wasn't sure he was a cop and that she wanted to reach a more populated area before stopping. When she finally does pull over, he's clearly on a short fuse. The driver, a nursing student from Florida, suffers scratches and bruises as she's dragged from her car and handcuffed. The dash cam video, broadcast nationwide, stirs widespread claims of police brutality. In the end, she gets a speeding ticket and a six-figure legal settlement from the South Carolina Department of Public Safety. And the trooper, an 11-year veteran, gets fired.
Okay, we just talked about respond versus react, right? What do we have there? Who was in control? No, right? No one was driving that bus at that moment, right? He allowed, for one reason or another, the situation to get to him. He lost control of himself, his emotions, and was completely out of control there. Okay, he represents his department, and he represents law enforcement in general. Okay, an officer in South Carolina can do this, and guess what? We're going to feel the effects of it in Alaska. All right. So let's talk about the art of representation. Now, a lot of the stuff we have in here, you'll see some reference to the martial arts of judo. Okay, and the book is called Verbal Judo. The author of this book, George Thompson, is practiced judo for, well, basically his whole life. Trained in it, instructed in it, and he died here a few years back, unfortunately. But he was also a scholar turned cop. Okay, he got a doctorate degree. He was a professor. He taught communication. Okay, and a lot of the stuff he learned and developed as a police officer on the streets, dealing with people day in and day out, difficult people, all kinds of people in different situations, right? And so what he's done is he's combined a lot of his background with judo and the discipline involved in the martial art of judo, and then his knowledge he's gained through experience and talking with people, all that he's done with his studies, those kinds of things, into what we call verbal judo. And it's the ability to talk and, if needs be, fight. This comes together, okay? The verbal part and then the judo part, okay? Communicating and, if needs be, the action of judo, basically fighting if needs be, all right? But that should be the last resort. So a lot of the stuff we get out of here, comes from that in his background. A little bit later, I'm going to play a little excerpt. I will let him explain a certain concept to you, and then I'll break that down a little bit. And so just kind of understand the background of where this comes from. So the art of representation, okay? You represent your agency and your profession, really, okay? That last officer, that was not a good representation, okay? You need to lose your ego. It's not about you. You got to understand, when somebody's yelling at you, when they're verbally berating you, they're yelling at the uniform, the badge, the fact that you're a cop. They don't know you. And you're going to get threats. They're going to threaten you. They're going to threaten your family. Okay? Drop your ego. Realize it's not about you. Okay? Folks take it personal. Officers take that in and they let that get to them. Okay? You're smarter than that. You're better than that. Let them bark. That's all it is. Okay? Don't get hung up on the little things that they try to throw out there, okay? They'll try and hang you up on stuff that has nothing to do with why you're there. They'll try and make it personal. Okay? Don't let it be personal. Lose your ego. Okay? The less ego that you show, the more power you're going to end up having. They can't control you. But if you have your ego in there, it's like a big lasso. They can get it around your ego and just control you, okay? Pull you anywhere they want you to. Once they've got you hooked with your ego, it's very difficult for you to back out of it. Because what would that mean? You'd have to drop your ego, right? But it's already hooked in there, okay? Just leave it out of there to begin with. It's not about you. It's not personal. It's professional. All right. So your habit of mind, a lot of these things come from the martial art of judo, okay? This one is called mushin, the still center, which is the ability to stay calm and read your opponent. I don't know if you've ever tried this or not, but if you're like absolutely freaking out, stressed out, you're like angry, how well can you actually read what's going on around you? How well can you pay attention to what's going on around you? You can't. You absolutely can't. You're not in control. A different part of your brain is taking over and is driving. You're not in control of yourself anymore. If you can stay calm, you can much better read your opponent, especially if they're not calm. You can anticipate their moves much better. You're more calm. You're more relaxed. Your ability to move and to react are faster and smoother. Okay? Stay calm. Then you must remain disinterested or impartial. I like the word impartial a bit better, right? Because disinterested to me kind of means a little bit of, whatever. I'm like, just talk, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being impartial. Drop your biases, okay? Just because you've been to, this may be your second or third DV of the night, don't just assume that guy's going to jail, woman's not. Maybe it's the woman that needs to go to jail. Maybe she's either the principal physical aggressor, or maybe she's the one the one that's committed the crime, right? We don't invest our emotions into these cases. Okay, you have to keep your emotions out of it. You're there to figure out what's going on, to calm things down, to communicate with people, and try to understand what's happening. That's why you're there. All right. Once again, we respond. We never react, right? So how do we deal with verbal abuse? Okay? How do we deal with verbal abuse? Anybody ever heard the saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt you? Right? Yeah. It's true. Okay? A peace officer should not react to words. They're simply words. Words in themselves can't hurt you. Right? They're words. It's like saying, when they say guns kill people, and that's like the big debate in Washington and politicians and trying to do the gun control. Well, guns are bad. Guns are really, really bad. Guns kill people. No, a gun is an inanimate object. Okay, it is, and it's not its own individual self-thinking entity. It requires the actions of someone or something to cause it to do whatever it does. Okay, words, they're just words. They can't hurt you unless you react to them, and then they can hurt you in a number of different ways. All right. So the best way to deal with verbal abuse, okay, we've got that adage, right? I kind of like this one a little bit better. Again, it kind of comes from the judo philosophy of things. When man throws a spear of insult at head, move your head, right? The spear misses target, leave man empty-handed, spear and wall not in you. Okay, same kind of concept. It's a spear of insult, right? When they throw that spear of insult at you, if you don't let it stick to you, if you just let it just flow on by, right? It's just words. You're good. If you take it and react to it, now it's hitting you. Okay, now they're doing damage, and the worst part is you're doing the damage yourself in the way you're reacting. All right. So this is how we're going to redirect that stuff. Okay, so people are throwing insults at you. insults aren't going to hurt you in themselves. You want to take that and use what we call strip phrases, which is the ability to take that insult and redirect it into what you're trying to accomplish, the reason why you're there. Okay? They can be saying, you know, you cops never do anything. You always just come out. You're here to arrest people. You don't care what happens. You're just ruining people's lives. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Okay? I appreciate your input. But can you tell me what's going on here today? Okay? Boom. Let's get back to business, right? You're just basically saying, okay, hey, I'm hearing you. Okay, so since you want me to help, can you tell me what's going on here today, right? Or I got that, but I had never thought about that, but all these different things. You're just taking that, so they're throwing whatever is at you, and you're just redirecting it into something more focused, so you can just roll back into what's going on there, the reason you're there. Okay, if you're going, well, hey, look, I've been to like 10 calls today. You don't understand what it's like to be me, right? They don't care. They really don't. And it's not important. It's not going to solve why you're there, why you were called there to begin with. Okay? Let them rant. Let them vent. You might actually learn something from that. You might actually gain some important intel from that. Okay? Take a little bit of that, put it in your pocket. All right, I'll come back to that. All right? Just let them go on, let them rant. All right, hey, I can understand where you're going. So tell me more about that, or tell me about this, or tell me about, just kind of redirect it into why you're there, what's going on, so you can figure out what's happening, so you can help them. All right. But, good word, right? Throw that in there. But let's talk about what we're here for, all right? Let's talk about the 4 reasons, okay, for deflecting verbal abuse, okay? Make you feel good. You're not getting suckered into things, okay? And it has a springboard focus technique, which basically means is you're springboarding back to what it is that you're there for. And you're focusing on what the point of you being there is, okay? You're just taking, the abuse is going by, you're just deflecting it, and you're springboarding back to the focus of what you're there for, okay? And if they're able to vent and you're still kind of getting what's done what needs to be done, it kind of takes the power and puts it back in your court, doesn't it? So you're much more effective. And it sounds good. It sounds professional. You sound like you're under control, like you're there to help, like you want to understand, like you want to do your job and you want to do the best that you possibly can. And that you're there for them, regardless of what they're saying about you. Because the bottom line is, that's what you're there for. That's why you're there, okay? Verbal abuse by itself is not a problem. It's just words, okay? Now, some of those words you might learn from, okay? You might actually be able, that might be intel for you. You might actually be able to get something from it, okay? So it's not always a bad thing. It's what you make it. But if you react to it, then it becomes a problem, okay? They can say what they want as long as they do what you say. That's the important thing, isn't it? Because what's our ultimate goal in law enforcement? We want to generate voluntary compliance, okay? Let them say what they want as long as they do what we say, okay? They can have the last word, you get the last act. Now, after break, we're going to talk about the most powerful word in the English language. Be back at 5 after.